Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. In the last couple of weeks, our media has gone crazy with shooting hoaxes. And for those of us who are awake, we have bared witness to a number of shooting hoaxes over the past few years. And it turns out it goes back even much further than that. And the reason we didn't catch on before is because it wasn't as frequent, it wasn't as in our face as it is now. But in going back and uncovering these hoaxes, we can see the consistent pattern that these have always been done by the numbers, from the dates they happen on, to the victims, to the shooters, to the police response. So in history, the worst shooting massacres in the United States, the worst is Virginia Tech, where 33 people died. The number coded into all these hoaxes. 33 died at Virginia Tech. The shooter killed 32 plus himself. The next worst is Sandy Hook, where the shooter killed 26 plus himself. With regards to Sandy Hook, it happened in Newtown. 26 victims. In Gematria, N becomes 5 because it's the 14th letter. 1 plus 4 is 5. E is the 5th letter. W is the 23rd. 2 plus 3 becomes 5. T is 22 plus 0 becomes 2. O is 15. 1 plus 5 becomes 6. W is 5 again. N is 5 again. Sum it up, it adds up to 33, like the number of victims in the Virginia Tech massacre, like the number coded into all these hoaxes. But look at it. It's all 5s and a 2 and a 6. And in Sandy Hook, in Newtown, there were 26 victims. There was a lot more 26 coded into it than that, but it's even within the name of the town. So in this case, this was the worst shooting massacre in the history of the country the day it happened. July 18th, 1984. Yours truly was 3 days from turning 1 year old. I wasn't even 1 year old yet when this happened. And of course, 84 is what United States of America sums to. This happened in San Diego, California. San Diego has the gematria of 74 and 38 with Pythagorean gematria. And California has the gematria of 88 and 52 with Pythagorean gematria. Put it together, San Diego, California sums to 90. 90 and 16 are the only two numbers that have gematria of 33. The numerology of this date is 38, just like San Diego with Pythagorean gematria. The word death also equals 38, and this story is about death. So, the shooting happened in San Ysidro, which has a Pythagorean gematria of 43 and 61 with the S exceptions. Remember this number 43. It's important in regards to massacres. This was known as the San Ysidro McDonald's Massacre. The word massacre, Pythagorean gematria S exception, sums to 43. The word murder sums to 34, the flip of 43. This happened in a McDonald's. McDonald's with Pythagorean gematria, Truth Seeker. I want you to see this. M's the 13th letter. 1 plus 3 becomes 4. C is the third letter. So Mick begins with this 4-3 combo, and it ends with this 3-4 combo. So this number is very important in this story, and we'll see how it connects with the next worst shooting. The numerology of the date, 38, like I said, matching San Diego and the word death. The shooter's name was James Huberty, having this gematria of 48 and 57, which are two numbers that reduce to 12 and 3. And his full name in simple English gematria sums to 147. Think of the recent shooting in Africa with all the 47 and 74 coding where there were 147 victims. 147 victims. Just like this shooter's name. These numbers are recycled in all these shootings. If you look at what it says the length of time was, on here that adds up to an hour and 18 minutes, but if you listen to the news reports, they say an hour and 17 minutes. Both numbers are interesting. 118 is connected to 39 and 93 in Thelema. James Madison was very much fascinated with these numbers. 117 is interesting for multiple reasons, but the next shooting, which this is also connected to, has date numerology of 117. So, this number 43, remember, this happened in 1984. This was the worst massacre in the history of the country at the time. It got overcome when this shooting happened. Luby's in Killeen, Texas. It happened October 16th, 1991. October is the only month with 33 gematria. 16 and 90, as we said before, are the only two numbers that have a gematria of 33. It happened at 12:39 p.m. Lasted for 12 minutes, ending at 12:51. 51, the number of conspiracy. 43 people were shot. The weapons are curious. A Ruger has the gematria of 33. Kill with Pythagorean gematria is 17. And again, to date, this is the third worst shooting massacre in the country, behind Virginia Tech and Sandy Hook. It's then this, and then it's this. And it seems that all of these massacres are scripted according to numerology, tied together with numerological details. The name of the shooter was George Hennard, a name with 39 gematria, just like the time the shooting began at. So coded. So we'll watch the news coverage from that time and just spot anything that's curious. Here we go, 1984.
On Wednesday, July 18th, the attention of the world focused with disbelief here in the border town of San Ysidro. Today, this is the only reminder of what happened on this spot, but the memory...
Oh, his name just went down, but did you see how his last name started C-U-L? Those are the three letters in Pythagorean gematria that reduced to 3. So his name begins with this 333 sequence.
...will haunt us forever. Let's go back to that night and Marty Levine.
Shortly before 4 o'clock this afternoon, 41-year-old James Huberty walked into the McDonald's in the 400 block of West San Ysidro Boulevard in San Ysidro. He yelled the word freeze, and then he opened fire. The terror, the tragedy, the madness which followed can really not be described. When all the shooting was over, after a member of the police SWAT team had shot and killed Huberty, 21 people were dead. Many others were injured. Many of them remain in the hospital. It was the worst multiple murder by one gunman in the history of this country. The death toll.
Look at how they put the gun sound effects in the background, just for the psychological impact. I mean, just on a surface level, you can see the news is sickness. Here we go.
Started at 6, then 10, 20, and climbing. By 4:15, a virtual army of police and rescue personnel had crowded the main street through this border town. Suddenly, a shot was fired. Police radio screamed, "He's down, he's down." Fallen to a sharpshooter. All those people. It all happened in about an hour. No one can explain why.
It is it's a very, very sad thing.
This guy's name gematria, last name sum to 39, and it looks like the microphone he's in front of has a 39 on it. It also sort of looks like a 69, but a lot of 39 here in this story.
And such a waste of human life that you just cannot comprehend it. It doesn't look real.
There is only one sure fact. The man was charged, convicted.
Did you hear how he just said that? It doesn't look real. If you pay attention to the news coverage and all these hoaxes, there's many statements like that. It's almost like they're trying to tell us.
Sentenced and executed by the split-second thunder of a police sharpshooter's bullet. That image, too, will echo through this neighborhood forever.
Okay, I sent the blood to the operating room, all right? Bye. I need a warm blanket. Right about here. Hey, Ron, talk to me. Talk to me now. You're not talking anymore. Ron, put your arms down by your side. You're doing fine.
At UCSD, they say the timing of the event could save lives. It was at an hour of the day when they were at full staff, and the patients were staggered enough to allow the best care.
What can you say in a case like this? It is difficult to be able to give them a word of comfort.
Young people gathered in the parking lot talking about their friends, what somebody had heard, rumors. For some, the ending was happy. Maria Imelda Diaz and her 2-year-old boy, Fuet, had...
The name gematria of all these people they're putting up is so curious, Truth Seeker. That last guy, Hal Clement, another 39. The witness before that with the crazy name, 44. It's always been this same way. Funny names, coded gematria.
been inside McDonald's when the shooting started. Mrs. Diaz got outside right away. Her son did not. She saw him inside against the window, crying.
And she waved at the little boy to come out, So the little boy came out, pushed the door and came out. That's when she grabbed him and just stayed there until, the
Sue Moreno. That name also summed to 44, the kill number. And this story is about death and killing.
they got him.
The boy got out safely. He and his mother went to the substation to be united with their anxious family.
Talking to us at a secret location, Etna Huberty built a profile of her husband as a man who himself was hurt. She said after losing his last job, his sane periods were few and far between, that he realized he was having problems, and just 2 days before the shooting spree, sought psychiatric help.
I think he called. I heard him talking to someone about it on the phone, and then he came out in the kitchen. He told me that they would call him with an appointment. And he sat in a chair with the phone beside him, waiting, and no one ever called back.
2 months later, the McDonald's restaurant was stripped of its contents, the building demolished, and the land leveled. But the horror of San Ysidro,
Just like what they did to the Sandy Hook school.
would not be erased, and the question why never answered. The person whose camera recorded so much of the emotion is Scott Hall, too young to know the experiences of military.
Scott Hall. Scott, a 77 name. Hall, a 33 name. It is now as it was then, as it was way before.
Combat, but permanently affected by what he saw at San Ysidro.
It was my first assignment on something like this. All I saw was black and white. On our camera, the monitor you see is black and white. You don't get the real feeling of being there in person. I don't anyway, because I'm seeing everything through the camera. It was later that...
I mean, seriously, this guy's talking about how it didn't seem real to him because it's looking it through the camera. It was his first time there. It's like he wants to tell the truth, but he can't.
I did have some real serious problems, some very strong memories of all the bodies we saw lying on the floor, of all the people rushing out, crying, screaming, just frantic. And it was a couple of days after it really happened that I finally felt the whole impact of the thing, that I started feeling guilt, and some guilt, more so anger as to why he would do all that.
It's bad, Truth Seeker. Let's watch the news coverage from the Killeen, Texas shooting, the one that would replace that shooting for the worst massacre ever.
For the first time, we heard the horror of last week's massacre in Killeen, Texas. Police releasing recordings of 911 calls today.
We've already got someone on the way. Do you have a description of the person that's shooting? He's still shooting. Okay, so I need a description of him before my officers get there.
One moment, please. Did you see him?
He's driving the pickup. His pickup is still in good car. Okay.
The autopsy report was also released today. It shows that 22 of the 23 victims were shot to death. The report on the remaining victim was not yet available. Police say all the victims were shot by George Hennard, who then shot and killed himself. It was the worst mass shooting in this nation's history.
Killeen, Texas has the gematria of 47, another number routinely coded into these hoaxes. They're always by the numbers, truth seeker. And that's the point of this post. Just more and more evidence. Last year, we got the story of the 43 missing college students in Mexico. 43. Focus on this number. And then we found out it was a mass murder, a massacre. Remember, these numbers directly connect to massacre and murder. The story began September 26th, and it closed January 27th, a span of 123 days, like the word conspiracy. Stories by the numbers, truth seeker. This is the way it's always been. This is how they control perception and the minds of the masses. One fake story after the next. Wouldn't it be funny to find out that there never really has been a serial killer or anybody who's ever been interested in doing a random mass murder? No one besides these psychopaths who run the media. All right, until next